Hello again. I can see that you guys are still interested in me reviewing random games. That's cool. I'm about to start the first review of the new year, so with a new year comes new stuff, and, well, I finally made an intro for this channel, so enjoy! The sixth generation of gaming was basically the beginning of gaming for me. One of my first game systems I ever owned was a PlayStation 2, alongside with a GameCube and a Sega Dreamcast. The PS2 showed me many great games on the system, and some shitty games, but we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on God of War. Before we talk about the game, let me give you some context on the game's development. Development started around 2002. Developers wanted to combine the combat of Devil May Cry and some of the puzzle aspects of Ico. Director David Jaffe, who previously worked on some of the best Twisted Metal games, wanted to make the game extremely cinematic with its camera, music, and scale. And in the finished product, it succeeds, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The game was unveiled at E3 2004, and the hype began. The game was released in March of 2005, and it was a huge financial success. Alright, now we got that out of the way, let's finally talk about the game and my first experience with the game. I remember when my older stepbrothers came down to visit my family years ago, and they brought a few games with them, one of them being God of War. I didn't play it because my parents wouldn't let me, but I watched all the brutal violence the game had to offer, and I was enjoying it. Years later, I would finally play the game, and this is it. Let's talk about the game's plot. You play as Kratos, an ex-Spartan warrior who serves the gods, mainly Athena, the god of strategy. Kratos' task is to defeat the god of war, Ares, because he's attacking Athens. If he kills Ares, then his nightmares will be taken away from him. You know, why can't the gods get off their lazy asses and stop Ares themselves instead of sending this strong Spartan warrior to do it for them? But whatever, video game logic I suppose. Anyway, in Kratos' past, he used to serve Ares because Ares helped Kratos in his massive battle. Then Kratos owed his life to Ares. So he and his massive army destroyed many villages and armies in the name of Ares. Until one fateful day when Kratos was ordered to raid this one random village, which his wife and child happen to be there, and Kratos accidentally kills them. So after the death of his family, Kratos vows to have his revenge with Ares. To stop Ares from attacking Athens, Kratos will need Pandora's box, which we spend a large chunk of the game doing so. And when we do, Ares kills us and sends us to the underworld. After we escape thanks to this convenient gravedigger, we defeat Ares and realize that the gods can't take Kratos' visions away.
But we never promised to take away your nightmares. No man, no god could ever forget the terrible deeds you have done.
So then he jumps off a cliff and tries to end his life. Then he's saved from the gods and chosen to become the new God of War forever! Until God of War 2. Looking back at the game's story, it seems very simple, but a little complicated. We see Kratos as this testosterone-filled brute and nothing more, but then we realize he has this tragic backstory that's written pretty well. I don't have any problems with the story. I think it's pretty cool. The writers take full advantage of the Greek mythology as well, with many creative liberties being used, of course. If only history class was this interesting. Oh well, let's talk about the gameplay. The game has more of a hack and slash type of combat, with a mix of puzzles to break the monotony. You have heavy and light attacks that could blast enemies right up into the air, which is pretty cool. You mainly fight enemies that are more than twice the size of yourself, and it really gives the game more of a grander scale. You're given two types of weapons throughout the game. The Blades of Chaos, which is mainly used for crowd control and gaining combos, and the Blade of Artemis, where it's a stronger weapon, but it's hard to gain combos because of how slow you swing the weapon. You also have 4 different sub-weapons, which are given to you by the gods themselves. You have Poseidon's Rage, where it's a large bolt of lightning, where it can absolutely obliterate crowds. Medusa's Gaze, where it turns enemies into stone, but it uses a lot of magic to do so. Zeus's Fury, where it's a bolt of lightning that can hit enemies from far away. It's basically your projectile. And the Army of Hades, where you send out a bunch of damned souls to help you fight. The one I use the most is Poseidon's Rage, and the one I use the least is the Army of Hades. You can upgrade all of these things by using red orbs, which is basically the game's money. It's pretty cool when you upgrade them, but it takes a while to do so, especially at the end of the game. Okay, what you basically do is hold the X button, so that's the bath scene. Oh, it's finally finished. Alright, let's select another thing. Let's go back to the bath scene. What else is there? Oh yeah, there are some quick-time events when killing certain enemies and bosses. They're pretty graphic and gruesome, but that's what the game is going for, and it looks pretty cool. And yes, it does make the game more cinematic. You also have the Rage of Sparta, which can make your weapons more powerful, and when you level up the Blades of Chaos, you could have unlimited magic. You also have some items to pick up throughout the game, like Gorgon Eyes and Phoenix Feathers. If you collect enough of these, then you could have more health and magic. Like I said before, there are some puzzles throughout this game. This breaks the game's monotony, and it changes the game's pace. One other thing I'd like to mention is the setting. Not only do they take advantage with the setting, but they also have creative liberty with it too. Although there isn't that much variety with the settings. I'll explain more when I get to the graphics. The developers made these huge areas with long stretches where you could walk around and look at the place. And there's a technical reason for that. You see, God of War rarely has any load times with the exception of going in and out of the game. So to compensate without having load times, they made these huge areas so they could hide the load times. Graphically, I think the game looks great for PS2 standards, but for some reason the character models look a little blocky, including Kratos' model. But the setting looks really nice, although there isn't that many areas you'll go in the game. First you're at the sea, then in Athens, then in the desert, then you're in the Rings of Pandora, which is a large chunk of the game, then you're briefly in the underworld, and then you're back in Athens, and then you beat the game. What I'm saying is the game could have used more settings, and the sequels did a much better job with this. The game's music fits perfectly well. It's quiet and relaxing when it needs to be, and there's a large chanting choir whenever there's a battle, which fits perfectly well. Even though it fits well with the game's setting, I don't really think the soundtrack is that memorable though. So overall, what do I think of this game? The gameplay is extremely fun, but a little monotonous at times. You have decent puzzles, some good graphics for the time, and an okay story for what it is. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. I enjoyed the game, but I need to have better pacing, more areas to explore in the game, and to make the gameplay a little less monotonous. It could have made this game a little better. Even though this game had many flaws, and the sequels improved on a lot of things, I still enjoyed it, and it's not a hard game to find if you want to play it for yourself. So, thank you guys for watching, and I hope 2015 will be a great year for the viewers and me. Hopefully I can become a little bit more popular, you know, spread the word about me, if I'm any good or not. So, now time to pick the next game for me to review. Okay, let's pick out my next game. You know what? I want to review an RPG for my next review, and that'll be perfect. Oh, this is perfect!